So this is a conversation I've seen on the internet a few times, so I figure why not make a video on it. Who's the better scorer, LeBron James or Kobe Bryant? We're not discussing best player. Most would agree that's LeBron James. But when we're talking about scoring, I do think it's a more interesting conversation. For a few reasons, because, if you look at like advanced stats and true shooting percentages and all that, then it would point to LeBron, who has been more efficient throughout his career. However, watching them both play basketball, you notice Kobe's versatility, right? Kobe's moves on top of counter moves, on top of his ability to hit contested shots. And when Kobe was hot, the guy was completely unguardable, right? And if you go down a compilation of impossible shots that Kobe made throughout his career, you'd think the guy was a superhero. And while I don't think this is at the same magnitude of like Shaq versus Dirk, where Dirk was a way better shooter and ball handler, and you could run more plays with him, whereas Shaq could just dunk on everybody's head, I do think there's a little bit of that still here, because with LeBron, it's like, okay, do we see him making turnaround jumpers, pull-up jumpers, floaters, busting out spin moves out of nowhere the way that Kobe did? No. But do we see LeBron still doing those things at a decent clip? We do, and LeBron is just insane going to the basket, and that allows him to be way more efficient than Kobe and all that stuff, right? So, if I can start off being pro Kobe, I think his absolute peak as a scorer is more impressive than LeBron has ever been, just in terms of putting up points efficiently enough. Because Kobe's 2006 is just, it makes no sense. The guy put up 35 points a game and he was pretty efficient while doing it. His true shooting percentage was 56%. I think a lot of that was because he shot 10 free throws a game. There was definitely a stretch where he was nearly as unstoppable going to the rim as LeBron, but even then, LeBron still wins in that category, I would say. But when you look at the teammates around him for that year, between Lamar Odom, Smush Parker, Kwame Brown, Devin George, Chris Mim, not exactly loaded with talent, right? So the defense could load up on Kobe. And even as they did load up on him, the guy would always have some other move to beat you, right? Because you see with LeBron, like, for as impossible as it is to stop LeBron, when he's playing a team like the Warriors, who are just full of tall defenders who can switch and they're strong and all that, there are some times when, say if Andre Iguodala is just in the right spot at the right time, LeBron may pass out, he may hoist up some like turnaround that you can tell is not really going in. This doesn't happen that often, but it happens like maybe 7% of the time. Whereas with Kobe, that same situation could pop up and he'll have like some other counter move, or he'll simply be better at turnaround jumpers than LeBron is. Now, of course, the case for LeBron in that specific situation is he'll be smarter than Kobe when it comes to reading the defense, and he'll put himself in a better position to get an open shot, right? So maybe Kobe will beat his guy off the bounce, and then he'll have like two defenders in his face, and he'll hoist up a mid-range jumper, which is actually like not an efficient shot at all, but he could still make them in sometimes, although, they definitely led to his field goal percentages not being as good as LeBron's have been. But again, a decent amount of them dropped in. And then you compare that to LeBron, who would probably read the defense better than Kobe would. He would call for a screen. He would read the help defense because the guy's a mastermind. And then he would get himself into the exact spot where he knows like the defense is going to be a step slow, or he knows the game plan, so he's going to like do the exact thing he needs to do to get himself like an open shot or whatever. And that's kind of the conversation of Kobe versus LeBron. It's like, at what point are LeBron's smarts and overwhelming physicality going to the rim too much for Kobe to compete with as a scorer? Now, another thing, I mentioned the inefficient mid-rangers that Kobe would take a lot. I think we also have to point out, in Kobe's era, those shots were fine for the most part. I mean, they really weren't, but we didn't know that they weren't at that point. Do we give him a break because of that? I mean, I think you can make a case, because if Kobe came up today I think he would be smart enough to realize, like, you know what, I should mainly go to the rim, post up, and I should shoot threes. You know, I shouldn't do these, like, long two-pointers, which at times he kind of made a career out of. The other thing is also, during Kobe's era, guys didn't space out the floor all the time. I mean, Mike D'Antoni, when he was reinventing basketball with his 7 seconds or less Suns, he had to constantly tell his guys, look, go all the way to the corners to give us optimal spacing. Like, players were not programmed to do that. So it's not like Kobe would always have the luxury of just choosing wherever he wants to go because the floor is super spaced out, which is something that LeBron has going for him right now, right? Now, even so, I would still consider LeBron James to be a smarter player than Kobe, which leads to him, you know, being a more efficient player again. But I don't think you can just say, well, Kobe didn't know what he was doing. He was just taking a bunch of bad shots. I mean, it was kind of the era he played in a little bit, too. And if we're simply looking at just highest scoring games, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm going to assume that Kobe has more 50-point games in his career than LeBron James does. He certainly has more 80-point games than LeBron James does. I know that much. Now, of course, play style has something to do with that. One other thing I want to look at, I didn't want to look at stats too much for this because I think if all you do is look at numbers, I feel like you're not getting the whole story. But if I can at least connect the numbers while talking about what I saw on the floor, then I guess there's something there. Per 100 possessions, like points scored for both of them throughout their careers so far, LeBron's at 37 points a game, Kobe at 36. While LeBron is significantly more efficient, if that means anything to you. Yeah, I mean, there's cases you can make both ways. I think at the end of the day, I'm still going to go LeBron. Because I think at a certain point, like, effectiveness matters more than flash. And LeBron's smarts, as well as just the way he can just go to the rim over and over and over again and just be more efficient than Kobe, not take as many of those mid-range jumpers. I think that's more valuable. I know that Kobe sometimes would be more fun to watch. And again, when Kobe got hot, I don't know if there's anyone I've seen who's that good at putting the ball in the basket. But at a certain point, you know, I think LeBron is just too damn good at the things that I've been talking about this entire video. Also, I think LeBron's progression as a three-point shooter and a post-up player as he's gotten older make a difference as well. He's already beating Kobe in three-point percentage, although Kobe's percentage from three is maybe the weirdest stat in the history of basketball to me, because if you watch the guy play, you knew that he was like a great shooter, and whether it be because he pretty much never shot threes when he was open, because he never was open, or maybe he would just take some ill-advised ones, or maybe he just flat out wasn't actually that great from outside, who really knows. His percentages do not back up watching the guy actually play basketball when it comes to threes. I mean, of course, for a long time he was the all-time leader in threes in a game, but, you know, LeBron, I think he was able to improve his game from the outside enough to help him out a little bit more in this conversation. Yeah, gotta go LeBron. I did everything I could to make the case for Kobe. Pretty much the entire video was spent with me making the case for Kobe, I think. And even so, I couldn't do it. I'm going to go LeBron as the better scorer. So yeah, Kobe fans, don't be mad. I know that's a thing that can happen, is you say one thing about Kobe that is not overwhelmingly positive, and some people on the internet freak out. I would like to believe that the people who watch my videos are pretty good at not doing that. So we'll see what happens.